Hello, everyone. I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Kmart, and I want to talk about some basketball. And today, we are talking about Anthony Davis and the sizable extension that he signed just a little while ago. And, uh, yeah, I know in terms of the news actually breaking, I'm probably a couple of days late here, but I was kind of, um, away, not 100% available over the weekend, so we kind of just put it off until now. But we are going to talk about it. Anthony Davis is set to be a Laker for the foreseeable future. Signed an extension with the organization that is going to get tacked on to the end of his current contract. That extension is for 3 years and $186 million. So it pretty much takes the crown here for the most expensive contract slash extension in terms of actual annual value, not for uh total money overall, but I do believe it is now the highest in terms of the annual salary, and it keeps Anthony Davis signed to the Lakers through 2028. I believe there was an announcement later. The final year of the extension is a player option, so technically speaking, he could uh, be a free agent as soon as I think 2027. But the long term deal is in place, and Anthony Davis is going to be a Laker for the foreseeable future. He is also going to be a very, very rich man for the foreseeable future, as that extension, if you did the math, 3 years, 186 million, is going to pay him $62 million per year if it's divided evenly amongst the years. I don't know if that's going to be the case or not, but breaking it down just by the average, $62 million a year. So when you hear that number, when you see that kind of figure, a lot of people inevitably ask the question, is that extension worth it? And realistically speaking, we have three ways of sort of looking at the extension here in terms of worth, right? Quote unquote worth. So, or at least three categories that I could sort of think of. The first is obviously statistical, right? What does Davis bring to the table in terms of his play on the basketball court? For his career, Anthony Davis has averages of 24 points, 10.4 rebounds, 2.4 assists, 1.3 steals, and 2.3 blocks on 51.9% field goal shooting. Also a 79.3% free throw shooter with about 7.1 free throw attempts per game. So over his whole career, pretty solid, right? More than solid, averaging a double double. The steals and block numbers are great. Field goal percentage above 50% is always a plus. That free throw shooting could be significantly higher. That's maybe one knock on his game, for sure, is that he's not the most efficient from the line, but he's at least getting there pretty frequently as a big man, which not all big men can do, right? You play a physical game down low, you're going to get fouled pretty often. Not everyone can take advantage of that. Anthony Davis kind of straddles the line where he draws the fouls, he just doesn't always make the free throws. But those career numbers, pretty damn good. Since joining the Lakers specifically in his seasons that he's been in LA, those averages come to 24.6 points, 10.1 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.3 steals, and 3.1 blocks on 52.4% field goal shooting, and again, kind of low, 78.8% free throw shooting on 7.4 attempts. So, the move from New Orleans to LA didn't exactly improve his free throw shooting. But you see those numbers all around the same. The points are slightly higher, the rebounds are slightly lower. You can nitpick this, that, or the other, but the fact remains we haven't really seen a massive drop off when he plays from his time in New Orleans to now his time in Los Angeles. So the argument would be that statistically, despite getting a little bit older, right? He's sort of approaching, or is 30. I think he'll be turning 30 maybe this season, but something like that. He is still producing when he plays. And I suppose the biggest sort of proof of that we would see was just this past season, the 2022-2023 campaign. His averages in points, in rebounds, in assists, and in field goal percentage were all higher than his career averages. So he was playing above where he had been for most of his career. And that's really only taking into account regular season numbers here, right? If we want to see Anthony Davis at or near, I'd say, sort of full power here, um, we can sort of look at his playoff numbers, right? In terms of the 2022-2023 playoffs, Anthony Davis led those playoffs in both rebounds at 14.1 and in blocks at 3.1 per game. He was a defensive anchor for the Lakers en route to an exit in the Western Conference Finals, but still made it to those Western Conference Finals, and he was still putting up 22.6 points during that span as well. So 20 plus points per game, double-digit rebounds, 3 blocks per game, playing elite level defense. That is what people talk about when they say, like, you know, if Anthony Davis could stay healthy, if Anthony Davis was playing at his best all the time, that's what it looks like. And it looked pretty impressive. And to sort of keep the theme going here in terms of playoff performances, look to Anthony Davis's numbers in that 2019-2020 championship run in the bubble. That was, again, kind of peak Anthony Davis, right? He was going out scoring like 24, 25 points a game, still getting you close to double-digit rebounds and still playing fantastic defense. That is what you could be getting from Anthony Davis if he were 100%. And from a statistical standpoint, Anthony Davis's numbers are very impressive. Is it $62 million a year impressive? Well, yeah, that's where it gets a little bit weird. $62 million is just a lot of money to pay anyone at this point, but we're going to have to slowly get used to some of those numbers maybe creeping up. And for someone we could maybe look to in a similar vein, Jaylen Brown, who just received a sizable extension from the Celtics. I don't quite think it's the same exact same value on a year-by-year basis, but it's another similar player where a whole lot of money was committed long-term. If you look at their statistical profile sort of side to side here between Jaylen Brown and Anthony Davis, Davis's numbers are on par with or potentially better. You know, that can be debated. But his numbers are similar enough to Jaylen Brown's, who just got that massive extension. So from a statistical standpoint, it does seem like if anyone was going to get paid that kind of money, Anthony Davis is a decent fit, right? Is he the absolute best player in the league? I don't really know how you would even determine that, but he's within the realm of players where a deal like this at least makes sense, which I know is kind of a cop-out, but that's the best that I can do for you. But we take a look at it from the statistical standpoint there. Now we come to sort of the elephant in the room here, because the second category we can look at this from in terms of whether the extension's worth it is the health of Anthony Davis. And that's kind of been the issue for him since he came to Los Angeles. He has simply not been able to stay 100% healthy since he's joined the Lakers. We can sort of go down the list here. In the 2019-2020 season, he missed just 20 games. 2020-2021, he missed 46 games. 2021-2022, 42 games missed. And just this last season, in the 22-23 campaign, he missed 26 games. All of these are in the regular season. Just sort of want to add that caveat in there. But yeah, Anthony Davis has gotten himself hurt for the most part in every season since joining the Lakers. And, well, I don't know. I'd say last year, 26 games missed is not as bad, right? The 46 and the 42 in the middle there, those ones were kind of rough. Those injuries kept him out for longer. But these are not games missed for rest, for load management, for anything like that, or precautionary measures. These were games Anthony Davis missed because he couldn't play, because he was hurt in some fashion. So that is something that gives you cause for concern, right? We're going to give this guy an extension for $60 million a year, and every season since he's joined us, he has had some injury concerns. The Lakers could have looked at that and, as I said, been a little bit wary, a little bit concerned, but obviously not enough to not offer him the extension. So they did go for it. And part of the reason for that is the fact that Davis has been hurt every year since he joined the Lakers, but almost exclusively in the regular season, right? As I said, all those numbers I mentioned in terms of the games missed, that was for regular season games. Once they got to the playoffs, Anthony Davis has kind of put a lot of that injury talk behind him. He's missed just one game in the playoffs since joining the Lakers, and it was that game against the Phoenix Suns where basically everyone in the world knew that he shouldn't play, but there was all this media talk about whether he was soft or faking it, so he went out there to prove him wrong, and then he made his injury worse. That was the one that he missed, where he simply could not play physically at that point. But for the Lakers, they look at this and they say, okay, yeah, he gets injured in the regular season, but if the injury issues don't carry over to the playoffs, should we care? And the answer was apparently no. I would say that the answer should be kind of, not just a flat out no. Because if the team is good enough to reach the playoffs with Anthony Davis missing somewhere in between 20 to 40 games, then sure, by all means, don't care, right? Anthony Davis plays when he plays, and when he doesn't play, the team can tread water just enough to still make the playoffs, and then if you get him healthy for those playoffs, you're still a dangerous team. We just kind of saw that in the last season with him and LeBron. They came in through the play-in, made a run to the Western Conference Finals. However, in a post-LeBron world, right, which is where this extension's going to be relevant, because LeBron is probably not going to be around for too many more seasons. Kind of hard to tell at this point, but you would guess that that would be the case, or either that or he won't be on the Lakers. He'll go join whatever team potentially drafts his son. We can't be nearly as confident in that scenario. In the play without Davis for 20 to 40 games and make the playoffs anyway kind of scenario, and then get him back healthy. So, it is a little bit of a concern there. It's going to come down to the roster construction, obviously, for the Lakers in a post-LeBron era. But apparently the Lakers weren't concerned. They didn't have too many concerns in terms of his age either. Anthony Davis is not exactly an old man by NBA standards. He's not really what we would say young anymore, right? His current contract, if you sort of tack the extension onto it as well, will take him through his early 30s, right? Not quite prime age anymore, but still productive years. He'll be around 35 years old in the final year of his extension. So it's set to end really right at the end of where you should expect Anthony Davis to be fully productive and sort of at his best. So if you're the Lakers, you weren't really concerned about the health, or at least not concerned enough to actually dissuade you from giving this contract extension over. And I think one of the big reasons for that comes into the third point to consider here in terms of judging the worth of this extension, and that's sort of, I guess I'll use the phrase star power, right? Marketability, something like that. Because, again, as we mentioned before, LeBron is not going to be in the league forever. LeBron is kind of the face of the Lakers at the moment. Anthony Davis is the secondary. But LeBron's going to, at some point, not be in the league, right? He's going to retire at some point, though it doesn't seem like he is with the way that he still sort of plays and goes about things. Eventually, LeBron will leave the league, or at least leave the Lakers. And Los Angeles needs to be laying the groundwork for how they plan to build their team in a post-LeBron era. And I think that's where this extension sort of takes on a little bit more intangible value, right? It's not just the money. It's not just Anthony Davis as a player. It's Anthony Davis as a person and a personality, right? With this move, the Lakers basically have declared Anthony Davis to be the future of the franchise for the next couple of years going forward. He will be the cornerstone. You are not paying a man $62 million for him to not be the primary option for a team. So Anthony Davis is going to be the cornerstone that the rest of the team will be built around for the next 4 or 5 seasons. And there were some comments that came out from Rob Pelinka, the Lakers general manager, that sort of implied that Anthony Davis himself was aware of this, that he understood not the implications, but the responsibilities that would come from having an extension of this size, and sort of wanted to lean into that, wanted to be the face of this team post LeBron, wanted to be that cornerstone and take on those responsibilities. Of course, again, that's coming from the Lakers GM, not directly from Anthony Davis himself, I think, in terms of that quote. So you just gave a guy a $186 million extension as the general manager. You're obviously going to try and back that up with favorable quotes. But, if it's true, it means Anthony Davis is potentially ready for that kind of role here. And that gives the Lakers an insane degree of safety in terms of something they can fall back on, because they have a big face. They've got a guy who is, again, marketable, well known both in and out of basketball. Obviously, lesser outside of the basketball world. That's just how it works. But Anthony Davis is still someone that a casual fan might recognize. And that gives them a lot to work with, especially in a relatively sizable market like Los Angeles. And I think the thing to consider here, in terms of how valuable that star power is that Anthony Davis can help the Lakers regardless of whether the team actually wins or loses. The Lakers would love for a team built around Anthony Davis to be successful, to make deep runs into the playoffs, to compete for more championships. But even if it isn't, they've established a face for their franchise moving forward, a face that will bring attention to them. But just look at his prior team, the Pelicans. I think technically when he got there, they were still the Hornets, maybe. But the New Orleans team, the Hornets or Pelicans, prior to Anthony Davis being traded to the Lakers, the teams around him weren't always great. In fact, a couple of them were just bad. But the stardom of Anthony Davis, let's sort of put it that way for lack of a better term, the stardom brought the team viewers. It generated buzz around the team. It brought the attention of fans and media, even if they weren't always winning, right? I mean, they were in the playoff picture a couple of times. I think there were 2 seasons where they made the playoffs. I don't think they got very far, if I remember correctly, but the fact of the matter was that Anthony Davis was still enough to get a team that was maybe not the best in terms of construction or skill, get them to the playoffs, get some attention for the team in the organization. Never came anywhere close, really, to a championship run, but still generated a lot of attention, and by extension, looking at it from the organizational standpoint, a lot of revenue. So that has to be the thought process here. If you're the Lakers, you think to yourself, if we can win, if we can compete, then let's do it. Let's win. Let's compete. Let's go for a title. If we can't win, let's at least have something entertaining. Let's have a product that gets butts in seats, right? Because losing teams can still sell tickets and still make money. And having Anthony Davis locked down long term could accomplish that. He's the guy we could build around and try to compete, but if we can't, he's at least a guy that is recognizable and has enough draw and pull to still keep us afloat, still keep us in a good spot financially, right? So when you factor that into it, when you factor in some of the marketing and financial aspects of having a player like Anthony Davis signed long term, we come back around. We revisit that question: is the Davis extension worth it? I would say yes. And it's not entirely for your performance or statistical reasons. We went over those numbers. They're still pretty good. I think if he stays healthy and doesn't miss half the season every year, then he puts up the numbers to make this all sort of work and make sense, just sort of straight up. Yes, he will be a very expensive player. He's probably going to be overpaid, because I think $60 million is overpaying any player at this point. That is an insane amount of money. But he matches the statistical profile for someone who would be given that kind of extension. He matches the celebrity profile, I guess, in terms of having a star player in Los Angeles who can bring attention from fans, from media, from sponsors, etc. So it's really just the question of his health, and that was a question the Lakers felt okay with dealing with. It's been mostly confined to the regular season. He's only missed, as I said, the 1 playoff game since being in LA, so when they need him, he'll be ready, or they'll make sure that he's ready. And it's just a matter of whether the team can survive without him in the regular season, and to this point, they've largely been able to do so. Some of that comes down to LeBron, but as I said, we'll see how they build the roster in the future. So overall, yes, I would say that the extension is worthwhile. If Anthony Davis goes out and gets hurt on opening night and misses the season, then we can circle back and talk about this again. But as we currently stand, I think it accomplishes everything the Lakers want. They've got a very strong player from a statistical standpoint. They've got someone who has some injury concerns, but they feel like they can work around them. And they have someone who is a big enough star to help the team and bring fans to the games, regardless of whether they're winning or losing. That's really all you can ask for from a player of that caliber. So, yeah, all that to say, I think the Anthony Davis extension was worth it. Is it smart? That's an entirely different conversation, but it feels like there are only a few scenarios where this truly comes back to bite the Lakers in the ass. Not to say that those scenarios can't happen, but they're relatively limited. So we'll see what the Lakers do now. We'll see if Anthony Davis stays healthy and produces at the level that we saw from him. Well, I would say in the playoffs last season, because again, he still missed like 26 games in the regular season. But if he can do that, then the Lakers will be in a good spot, right? They bring LeBron back. They made some good moves in offseason free agency, and they're looking pretty good. And then we just stop talking about this extension because it stops being an issue. But let me know what you think. $186 million is a lot of money to be paying to one guy. Of course, again, it doesn't kick in until a couple seasons from now, but still, he is going to be paid $62 million per year. So do you think it was worth it? Do you think it was the right choice for the Lakers? If not, how do you think they should have handled the Anthony Davis situation? Should they have not given him an extension? Should they try to negotiate down a lower number? Just feel free to share your thoughts on that front. But other than that, thank you all so much for watching, and I will talk to you later.